The morning she walked out, she didn't bother to shut the door. Suitcases sat on the porch like soldiers awaiting orders. Her family hovered behind her, 6 of them, heads down, pretending to be ashamed while secretly celebrating. "I'm leaving," she said. "For good this time." Her voice was steady. That steadiness told me she had left me long before that dawn. The taxi door slamming was the last honest sound I heard from her for months. We met 12 years earlier, of all places, at a wedding. She wore gold that seemed to drink up every light in the room. When she smiled, it felt as though, for once, the world had picked me. We created everything together, the house, the business, the plans. I thought we were equals. She thought I was a rung on her ladder. It began in small ways, late-night work calls, a sudden hunger to travel. I didn't confront her, I watched. That's how the truth shows itself, by observing what people do when they believe you can't see. The first proof came from a slip of the tongue. She called me by his name. I can still see her freeze mid-sentence, play it off as nothing. That brief, trembling pause said everything. She believed she was careful, erasing messages, whispering behind closed doors, keeping her phone face down. Patterns, though, don't lie. I followed them quietly. A joint flight itinerary, secret messages tucked in cloud backups, photos, him, a man she'd once introduced as a distant cousin visiting from overseas. Distant, yes. Cousin, no. When I found out about the wedding plans, I didn't collapse. I smiled. Betrayal offers chances if you know how to seize them. I acted deliberately. First, I sold the house. It was legally in my name. Years earlier she'd talked me into adding her as co-owner in the name of trust. What she didn't know was that I'd reverted it months before, after the first clear signs. Turns out trust is sometimes best rescinded. I sold it quietly through a friend's agency. Cash, clean. Then I routed the title and proceeds into a new company she'd never heard of. Next, I erased her from our financial life. I wiped the joint accounts, closed cards, liquidated the business she treated as her playground. Every account bearing her signature was frozen, legally sound and perfectly timed. Then I waited. 2 months later she flew overseas, to him. Her 6 relatives followed. The plan was obvious: divorce me from abroad, marry him, and then return to live happily in the house we had built. Her divorce papers arrived the same week she shared their engagement photos. The irony was sharp. She filed for freedom immediately after signing away her own security. I didn't contest the divorce. I agreed at once, signed everything, made it effortless for her. That was what she wanted, my compliance. But each signature I placed was another nail in the coffin of her scheme. The trap I'd laid for her was silent and methodical. Months later they returned, not to reclaim me, but the house. They expected the white gates, the garden she used to boast about, the marble floors she called her empire. Instead, there was nothing. No gate, no home, only a cleared plot, fenced and stamped sold. She stood there with her suitcase still in hand, staring at the dirt as if the earth itself had betrayed her. Her lover tried to demand answers, but I watched from my car across the street, quiet and patient. One of her brothers called me, voice trembling. "Where's the house?" he asked. I answered calmly, "My house? You mean the one I sold 6 months ago?" Silence, then panic, a dawning realization reflected on her face. I'll never forget that mix of confusion, regret, and stunned disbelief. She understood, too late, that she'd left me holding the knife. But I'd used it differently, not to spill blood, but with exactness. She pursued legal options, naturally, claims of emotional coercion, joint ownership, fraud. But her signatures were everywhere, approvals on every document, her absence noted at each transaction. She had left willingly, relinquished claims in the divorce, and stepped straight into her own erasure. The lover vanished once he realized there was no money, no property, no future. He deserted her. She had crossed oceans for him, and he couldn't even cross the street for her. Her family turned on her one after another, each blaming her for the ruin they had all once hoped to profit from. They had tasted the scent of wealth, now they tasted dust. Last week she came to see me alone. She stood at my gate, my new house, smaller but mine alone, and said, I never thought you'd be capable of this. I met her gaze and replied, you never thought I'd be capable of anything. She wanted to argue, to yell, to beg, but her words faded. I could see the weight of it finally sinking in, that she'd risked everything for a man who disappeared and lost everything to a man she underestimated. She left without another word. This time she closed the gate. People say revenge is poison. Maybe they're right. But tell me, when someone burns your home to the ground, isn't it just to hand them back the ashes they made? I didn't shatter her life. I removed myself from it and watched what remained decay under its own lies. Now, when I pass that empty lot where our house once stood, I don't feel rage, only peace. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't what you take from someone. It's what they lose on their own once you finally walk away.